Hello, we are live. Welcome to week 77 of being live here on Supercharged Fridays. If we haven't met, my name is Sonal. I'm a career strategist. And if you are looking for, just practical tips that work, tips and strategies to supercharge your career, you are in the right place. I'm extremely happy you're here. Come in the comments so we know you're here. And when I say we, I am very excited to talk with a special guest here. And the topic is the most, not one of the, but the most demanded topic, which is around communication skills, which is a big one. And we're going to break it down today. And we're going to speak about public speaking specifically. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest who is hiding in there somewhere. I'm going to bring him in. Brenden Kumarasamy. Welcome to the show, Brenden.
Thanks, and it's great to be on.
Fantastic to be here. So, yeah, we are live. So come in, and I see some comments already. Good morning to those in North and South America, and obviously it's afternoon here in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and our folks in Asia. You guys are up. You are having dinner. It's great that you're joining us. So, Brenden, we're going to talk a lot about all things public speaking, and before we do that, would love for you to tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got to doing what you do today.
Absolutely, Sonal. So for me, my story started when I was in university.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do these things called case competitions.
Yeah.
Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds.
Yeah.
So while other guys my age...
Professional sports, but for nerds. Got it.
You got it. So while other guys my age were playing soccer or footy, I think they call it footy in Europe, or any other sport, I wasn't like that. So what I did was I did presentations for fun. That's what I did. So I did that for 3 years. I presented hundreds of times with the goal of getting a job in consulting.
Yeah.
And I accidentally got really good at communication coaching. So it was when I started working in corporate that I realized there was a bigger mission to what my life was meant to be, because nobody was sharing free communication tools on how to speak that was layered in practicality. And that's what led to my YouTube channel, Master Talk. And then a few years later, here we are today.
Okay, amazing. And so if anyone's interested in finding out more about Brenden and what he does, so I highly recommend you go to LinkedIn and check out his profile and definitely subscribe. Like just blindfolded, just subscribe to his YouTube channel, Master Talk. So fantastic. We're going to get cracking, Brenden. And if you guys have questions today about our topic, which is how to speak with impact, how to be memorable when you speak, please drop those in the comments. We're going to do our best to get to them. So Brenden, let's start by talking about how we introduce ourselves. So I don't know if you guys were paying attention because Brenden kept it pretty short, succinct, but there was something memorable in there. We want to see how, Brenden, you can help us to break down the process for us so that we don't go on. And at the same time, it's not too short that they've lost interest, right? So share with us the best way we can introduce it. Like, hey, I'd like you to meet Brenden. And then Brendan's like, hey, nice to meet you, whether it's in a networking event or it's an interview for that matter.
Absolutely.
How do we go about it, Brenden?
Yeah, for sure. So when we introduce ourselves in an impactful way, the way we introduce ourselves will change based on the setting that we're in.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you're at a networking event.
Yes.
The way that we communicate is going to be something along the lines of, hi, my name is Brenden, and insert passion or mission here. So we always see it all the time. There's some people who sound something like this. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenden, and today it's great to meet you. They're not really excited to be there. They don't feel a lot. Whereas the other person says, hey, this is my name, and this is what I'm excited about life. This is why I'm excited about life. Those are the people that catch our eye. Whether it's at a networking cocktail, whether it's at a job interview, those are the people that get our attention. So that's what I'd recommend people to do. Answer 3 questions for me. 1, who are you? 2, what are you passionate about? And 3, why are you passionate about that thing? So 1, right? My name is Brenden Kumarasamy. Two, I'm the founder of Master Talks, a YouTube channel. I started to help people with their communication skills. And three, I believe in this idea that everyone should have access to free communication tools because I think the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl and she deserves to get access to communication tools.
Okay,
Super simple.
I'm gonna pause you because you said such fabulous stuff, and I'm like
Sure.
gonna give the people a second to digest it here.
Sure.
So I read a comment here. Hey Jeff, we're gonna get to your question. Fantastic question. If anybody's around, firstly, if you're watching me on YouTube, please go and subscribe. Jeff was live with me a couple of weeks ago. Gem of a guy. We talked about, like, we geeked out the way Brenden geeks out about presentations. We geeked out about all things LinkedIn. So what it's exactly the way Pranay is saying. Brenden, what you said is, it's obviously what you say. I talk about that a lot, but also how you say it. If you're passionate about something and you're like, you're not really passionate about it. At least that's the perception. So the formula, I like structure. I like step by step. Who are you? What are you passionate about? Why are you passionate about it? And we got a demo answer from Brenden right here. So if you're joining us, go back and watch the replay. You're going to listen to that answer. And now let's say, Brenden, someone who's listening today or watching us today and has the same approach, and they're looking for a job today, right? In a job interview scenario, what would be the best way to apply this formula for them?
Absolutely. So in the context of a job interview, the structure changes a bit, right? Every setting is different, but the principles stay the same.
Yeah.
So in a job setting, it would change drastically a bit. So it would be more like, "Hi, my name is Brenden. It's great to meet you." Let's say I'm being interviewed by you on a which is happening right now, but also in the context of a job interview.
Yes. Yes.
But where the introduction happens in the context of job interviews is when we ask the famous, "Tell me about yourself."
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about who you are. What do you do?
Yes.
And I see this all the time. We both, interviewed candidates for different jobs.
Yes.
There's a very big difference between someone who says this.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Brenden, and yeah, so I worked at this company for 5 years, and it's great to be here. Versus somebody who says, "Hi, my name is Brenden Kumarasamy. Is that I help others achieve rocket ship level success. And I've done this through 3 key experiences in my life. Number one, when I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I worked with an incredible team of like-minded individuals working on thoughtful, provoking projects in the ESG gases and audit emissions. Number two, when I worked at IBM as a business transformation consultant, helping my clients navigate the difficulties of digital transformation and achieving powerful results that I'm excited to talk about in this interview. And of course, number three, my volunteer and extracurricular activities, where I help students and young leaders across the world master the art of communication. And I believe it's these 3 experiences that leads me to my job today. So what this does, Sanal, is the structure and the way we explain that structure creates a completely different first impression for the
100%. 100%. I think we are what do you say, birds of a feather or whatever, a very similar approach to how I teach this as well. And when you practice this, I'm speaking to the viewer here, when you practice this, you can get this to 60 to 90 seconds, right? Including the 3 bullet points, which I love because it breaks it down, makes it easy, makes it memorable. I remember, Brenden, I interviewed someone when, he gave his name, just like you said, "Hi, I'm Brenden Kumarasamy." The way the answer came, I was like, "Is that your name?" Because it sounded like a question mark. And it was like so unsure of himself, like John Smith. So are you like really John Smith? So like, yeah, I'm sure of who I am. I'm here. And I'm here for a specific reason. I'm here to get the damn job, right? So you can attack that in a very sort of subtle way in the "tell me about yourself" question. And the way Brenden did it right now, dude, you're hired, like on the spot. Like, how much salary do you want? So love it. If there are any questions about particularly about the introduction, feel free to put them into the comments. And I'm going to talk to you about something else now, Brenden. And the second thing is, let's say either for a job interview or we're at work, right? We're employed and we've been told there's an important person in town. Actually, they don't even have to be in town, they could be virtual, but it's something that's come up. There's a pitch, there's a presentation that has to be made. So obviously, you've got your deck of cards, but we're not talking about your deck of cards today. We're not even talking about your command over the English language. Separate topic, because I have to say this because some people can use that as a crutch. But we're talking about the delivery. So not the content, but the delivery of that presentation. And Brenden, share with us your favorite tips for when someone is in a bind and needs to nail it.
Absolutely. So what I always say, Sonal, is like Navy SEALs, you always default to the level of your training.
Mm.
And that same logic applies in any presentation that we give. So my advice is to prepare better for the next one, because you might not do a good job for this specific presentation if you didn't practice. I don't like giving silver bullets because there is none.
No.
But what I would say as practice to get better for next time is what I
Mhm.
call the random word exercise that I'm happy to demonstrate today if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
So the random word exercise is essentially where you pick a random word, could be any word
Yeah.
whatsoever, lamp, doorknob, tree, and through that random word, you have to create a presentation out of thin air. And what this does is it allows you to communicate ideas for anything,
Mhm.
for anything that you do. So that's a great exercise people can do.
Hi, Lauren. And I know that you do this with Lauren as well, who's a dear friend of mine. Let's take this example of what you just said. And guys, let's practice this in our free time. But today, let's do this. You said pick up a random word, right? So can I put you on the spot?
Please, please, please.
Okay.
Pick anything.
Uh, Mouse.
Sure. So here I go. Mouse, no preparation.
Yeah.
As I'm clickety clacking away at my laptop on a Sunday evening, trying to get all my work done, I can't help but realize the power of my mouse. And no, I'm not talking about mouses, I'm talking about computer mouses. And the power of the computer mouse is that it allows us to navigate the internet, navigate our day to day things, navigate our productivity in such a powerful way. Imagine life before the computer mouse, where you would have to type things on a computer. You wouldn't know how to navigate the internet. Things would go a lot slower. So, in the same way that you think about your computer, the same way that you write things on a keyboard, appreciate the little things in life too. Because that computer mouse is a lot more than just a $50 device.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I dare you, the person who's watching, I dare you to do this. It might just be more fun than you realize. And I never thought I could listen to anyone speak about, a mouse with so much passion. Love it. So this is a great way to just give me a second. There's a young person here. Sorry about that. The kids are home for the summer. So that's a great example, and let's everyone do that. It's a random words. Absolutely right, Risto. Random words help us to break down anything that is hitting a speed breaker, right? So love it. I'm gonna now jump into the comments where I see quite a bit of action, and I'm gonna let's see what questions we have in here. So the first question was with, I think, from Jeff. Other than Toastmasters, which many people love, Brenden, what are your other you know ideas to get better at public speaking?
It's a great question, Jeff. So there's a couple of different things, and it really depends on your budget. If your budget is less than 1,000, I
Mhm.
would definitely recommend Toastmasters. I think that's the best place for anybody to practice.
Okay.
If your budget is over 1,000, or you can get it subsidized by your company if you work in corporate, I highly recommend working with a speech coach, because when you pay a fee, you get access to really high quality people and you could practice with them.
Yeah.
But there's also an option three. And option three is making a list of the top 10 people in your network. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
and messaging each of those people individually
Yeah.
and saying, hey, I'm working on my communication skills. Is this something you want to work on together this year? And even if all of those 10 people say no, Jeff, there's still a way to utilize the top people in your network. And I'll give you the trick. The trick is you record a video on your own, like just a presentation you want to do. Let's say you don't have a budget for a speech coach. And then what you do is you send that video to all 10 people, but you ask for time stamped feedback. What does that mean? That
Uh-huh.
means instead of somebody saying, oh, Jeff, that was a good presentation, or oh, Jeff, it could be better. It's too vague, right? So what you want your team of 10 people to do, they don't have to be coaches, they just need to be smart people, is they could say something like, hey, Jeff, at 0 minute 50 seconds, I don't like what you did there. Or at 1 minute 21 seconds, I loved what you did there. That was incredible. So that's a trick you can use as well.
Ah, okay, okay. So send them your recording, but don't ask for everyone to give you this generic feedback because that's not going to get you better. The riches are in the niches. So niche down into timestamps. Absolutely love that. And then what you're saying is you're going to get better because you're going to improve little sections of your speech.
Correct. So how the
Okay.
flow would work, so people are aligned, is with all the time-stamped feedback that all 10 people gave you, because they'll still watch your video and give your feedback. You'll go through all of those individual timestamps as you rewatch the video. You'll go, oh, right, I messed that up. Oh, right, I messed that up. So the second time you send them the video, it's 10 times better than the first one.
Yes, always. Absolutely love it. And speaking of resources, one is of course, Toastmasters. And any favorite book of yours, Brendan, that you keep going back to again and again because you can't get enough?
I have a very unconventional one. I'm sure we all know the
Bring it
usual
on, bring it
ones.
on.
So my unconventional best book on communication is a book called Thirst by Scott Harrison. So Scott Harrison's the CEO of Charity Water. He helps people gain access to clean drinking water. He's a superstar. But more importantly, in the context of storytelling and communication, what I love about Scott's advice in his book is it's layered in practicality. It's not just, oh, you should do this with your story. He's done it, he's applied it, he's raised hundreds of millions of dollars for charity. There's a lot we can learn. And what's interesting about Scott in particular is that he's working in an industry that has a lot less money than a Nike or a big
Yes,
company has.
yes,
So there's a lot we can learn from how Scott story tells, especially the early days of Charity Water when he
yes.
literally had no money.
No
And there's a
money.
lot we can get from there as well.
Okay, fantastic. So if anybody's curious to know more, start with one book. I was very tempted to ask Brendan for three favorite books. He was like, no one goes out and buys three books. And you're absolutely right. There's a very high likelihood that you have not read Thirst by Scott Harrison. If you have, you want to be a smart aleck, put it in the comments that you have. I'm going to quiz you. I'm kidding. But if you haven't, it's a really good idea to go and get the book. Fantastic. So I'm going to move on to another question, and then we're going to move on to our third point. I'm going to keep our live stream short today and to the point, which is something I struggle with, but we can always make an effort. So Mansi is asking about native language skills, right? So is that a prerequisite, Brendan, to sounding more polished?
No, not at all. And I'll prove it to you, Mansi. Look at
Yes.
Sundar Pichai, right?
Yes.
The CEO of Alphabet, right? Google,
Yes. Google. Yes.
right? He's got an accent. Nobody
Yeah.
cares,
No.
right? So we all need to understand, especially for those whose second language is English, that accent is not the problem. Mindset is. The mindset that our message doesn't matter as much as it should.
Yeah.
So we need to start getting clear about why what we have to share with the world matters. Look at me. I started a YouTube channel on public speaking, and I started coaching C-suite executive clients when I was 22. All right. So if I could do it, why can't you?
Yeah,
Right.
no, 100%. And Mansi, I'm going to challenge you a bit more here than what Brendan said. Um, on one hand, you have countries in South Asia where, being colonized by the British, we do have native level, command over grammar and things like that. I learned Spanish as an adult. and French as an adult in my 20s and 30s and making presentations in these languages shaky. No one really cares about the third participle, and this was in the past tense. It should have been with an S instead of nobody cares, because what they care about is confidence and your message. And Brendan, if you want to add something, because I do hear this a lot from YouTube comments. Hey Sonal, how can I get better at English? And I hesitate to make that presentation because I have lots of grammar and not even accent, like basic grammar issues, because they didn't go to the most expensive schools.
Absolutely. There's actually a trick to this.
Yes.
So I think it's important to talk about myself as well, in the sense that I actually went to French school my whole life.
Yeah.
So when I was studying in Montreal, every presentation I gave was in a language I didn't even know. So
Yeah.
trust me, I understood the struggle of presenting in a second language. So what I
Yes.
will say is there's a 3-part framework you can use
Mhm.
to help you present better in a second language.
Okay.
Number 1, present or give a presentation that you're excited about in your native language. So that could be Telugu, that could be Hindi,
Yeah.
Mandarin, pick your language,
Yeah.
do that one. Why? Because the difference between your first and your second language is culture and vocabulary. It's not intelligence. It's culture and vocabulary. That's part
Culture
1.
and vocabulary. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. So number 1, once again, write out a speech in your first language. Number 2, translate that language into the one you need to speak it in. So in this case, most of us, our second language is English. So you're
Yes.
going to take your first language presentation,
Yes.
translate it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, number 3, right? Do a vocabulary test. So what's a
Mhm.
vocabulary test? A vocabulary test is when you present that presentation in English to native speakers. So what
Mm.
these native speakers do is they correct all of
Mm.
your vocabulary so that when you go into the speech, you're absolutely
Mhm.
perfect. And I did the exact same thing when I keynote in French.
Okay, love it. So, if you're presenting in a non native language, first things first, make a presentation about something you're excited about and like the back of your hand. Then, number 2, go and translate it into the target language you're going to be using. And then the third, get help from a native speaker. Wow. Fantastic, Brendan. I can see why you're so good at what you do. Love it. All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to come back to you guys with the questions in a little bit. And I want to talk about speaking, and communication is a big topic. So we're not going to cover everything. We don't have the time, right? But when it comes to speaking, Brendan, sometimes the simplest of conversations. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone 2 days ago, and he said something, and I responded, and he said, "Oh my God," he said, "this is not what I said." I now understand why people say I need a communication coach. And I'm like, no, dude, don't. I mean, then I realized maybe it was me. And there's so many things can understand. They can like snowball from one little misunderstanding to like, oh my God, he hates me. Oh my God, they want to fire me. So I'm not going to talk about the perception because that's a separate thing. But when it comes to our control, our words, our intonation, everything, how can we be in a more clear position to avoid all of the yucky stuff and ugliness that comes with misunderstandings?
Absolutely. So the way I think about it, especially in the context of corporate, and my mentor taught me this,
Yes.
is think of it like a jar. And
Yes.
every time that you communicate in a company, it's a piece that goes into the jar. So you want to make sure that diamonds are going into the jar and
Uh-huh.
not rocks. Or else, because if there's too many rocks, the jar is going to break. Right. So it's the same analogy that I would give in the context of communication. So for me, the best way to avoid misunderstanding is always to listen more. Most people, and I'll give you something practical here. Most people, when they have conversation, it's statement, 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 statement. What does that mean?
Yeah.
That means I tell you what I think, and then you immediately go, oh, okay, here's what I think. And then I immediately go, here's what I think. Here's what very few people do, especially in the workplace,
Yeah.
is responding more with questions rather than statements. So let's say you say something, you go, oh, Brendan, I think in interviews we should be doing this. So instead of me saying my opinion, I would pause and go, Sonal, tell me a little bit more about that. Why do you
Okay.
believe that? Tell me
Okay.
more about that. So, executives, especially the best ones I've been around, are a lot better at asking more questions than giving more statements. And the best leaders in any company, for those of you who are aspiring to be that, have the ability to get everyone else's perspective first before giving their own. So, whenever they give their own, there's no misunderstanding
No.
because you have to perfectly understand everyone else's point of view first.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's some minor tweaks here and there that can make a huge difference. And it's not even so much about your speaking skills, it's about the choice of whether the answer is a statement or a question. What are you starting with? Are you starting with curiosity or are you starting with confirmation? I already know this and this is what I think. Deal breaker, particularly with others who listen. Some listen with their ears, some listen with their hearts, some listen with their eyes. So you want to be able to be in a position that attracts, and you're magnetic, all the good people, right? So love it. Fantastic. So I'm going to quickly look in and jump in the comments and then we're going to wrap up. Lee says it's so funny that you chose a mouse because that's exactly what happened with IDEO and Steve Jobs. I did not know that, Lee. So absolutely love it. And now there's a question here. In an organization, and someone's always rude with everyone, including bosses. How do you deal with it? How do you
Right.
communicate?
So another point from the previous question as well that I wanted to add is clarity is a superpower. Most people don't clarify enough. They see it as a weakness. They go,
Yes.
"Oh, I have to answer this question right away." No. The people who are really smart. I mean, think about McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain, the people who work as consultants. They spend 90% of their life just clarifying what the problem is and then 10%
Yes.
getting everything done, right?
Yes.
So going back to the question that was asked around how do you deal with bad bosses, I have an easy solution and a harder one. Easy solution is leave the company. Okay, I
Yes.
don't deal with bad bosses, and you shouldn't either. And
Yeah.
just we don't live a long time, and you won't get promoted that quickly anyways. There's not really that much benefit. So
Yes.
keep a foot out of the company, be proactive about how you network, how you collaborate to get out. But if you have to deal with it in the short term,
Yes.
my advice is avoid contact as much as possible.
Yes.
Limit the time you're spending with that individual.
Yeah. You've got to, Abhinashi, because otherwise you're going to get so caught up in the politics and the dirt and toxicity of it that you're going to turn out to be one of the people that you don't like. So I've written an article. You can also check it out on LinkedIn. It's called "How to Deal with Politics." And you have those characters. You've got the villain and the megalomania, all of them. But every office has their share of personalities and characters. You have a choice. You have a choice, and don't tell me that you don't. Things are picking up. The market is picking up, and thanks to people like Brenden, you can also choose how you respond. Right? So fantastic. And oh, fantastic. How versus wow. This is a classic Kumarasamy tip. Could you explain this, Brenden?
Hey, thanks, Laura. Appreciate it. So, what one of the points I can leave you all with is one of my favorite quotes that I always like to use is how versus wow. Most of us, when we see people we admire, fans of ours, people we care about, people we've always wanted to be, we stop the conversation at "You're so amazing. You're so great. I can't believe you achieved all of this." But
Yeah.
very few people study the success. How did
Yeah.
you actually get there? So my advice to keep things easy is the next time you see someone you admire, you can make a
Yeah.
list. Don't say wow. Always ask how.
How?
Spend time understanding the process of their success. Like a lot
Absolutely.
of people know who Kobe Bryant is. Very few people know exactly how he got to become state champion at the age of 15.
Yes, absolutely. Love it. Fantastic. Iris has a question. She's in Honduras. Where no, that's not a question. All right, we get very happy. Yeah, you're absolutely right about languages. I don't think that that's an issue. Not really. And Rachel is here. Hi, Rachel. What's the best tip to lay a foundation for great communication skills, particularly for students?
Yeah,
And you would know a thing or two about this, Brendan. Talk to us.
yeah, for sure. And you can message me separately, Rachel, about this. But the point is very simple for everyone. The problem with the education system right now is that in the education system,
Yes.
all of the presentations we have to give are mandatory, right? It's never, hey, so now you want to wake up in the morning and present all day? Nobody says that, right? It's
Mm.
not something we do for fun. Number
Mm.
two, we never get to pick the topic, right?
Mm.
So that means it's never you walk into a classroom and somebody says, Liz, what do you want to present to you? What do you care
No.
about? Do you like bubbles? No, it's
Chances are they'll tell you to talk about a mouse, like I
no.
did.
If you're lucky, it's actually worse than that. It's Renaissance. It's Shakespeare. You're like,
That's true. Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
And number three, the education system doesn't have the resources to coach students, which is unfortunate. It's not the teacher's fault. I always like to emphasize that. She's coaching like 60 students in each classroom, or he's coaching a bunch of them. So that's why it's they struggle a lot with their communication. So here's my tip, and this is what I
Yes.
coach my kiddos. The tip is make them present one presentation, not 50 like we
Yeah.
do in the education system, just one that
Yeah.
they choose, that they're excited about, and
Yeah.
they only work on that one presentation until it's perfect. And in 2 months, you'll see incredible results.
So I love the lack of overwhelm. And plus, if it's Minecraft they're after, then they need to talk about Minecraft. But I like that it's very similar to the same advice that you had for a non-native speaker who has to crush it in a language that is not their own. So it comes down to the same. Start with something you're excited about. So fantastic, absolutely love it. And Ankita, your question about starting in a new job, I think if you go back and watch the replay, there's a lot that Brenden shared, which is about things like avoiding misunderstandings, etc., which comes from asking questions, which I think will definitely be helpful to you. And Anise is saying, Brenden, what do you recommend when you're on stage? Walking around, stay in one place. What's your favorite thing?
I don't think that's the priority, Mohammed, if I'm being honest. I think
Yes.
there's other things that we need to prioritize. But what I would say is unless you're a pro speaker, I generally recommend just standing in one place because all of the best TED Talks, pretty much all of them, the person just stood at the same place. There's no change in my opinion. So I would just
Yes.
stay in one place. Keep it easy.
Keep it easy. Love it. And then there was another question about being articulate and effortless in our day to day, getting your point across. Yeah. And you said clarity is a superpower. And how do you get that clarity without some pain?
Yeah, there's always pain. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I think for me, Kenny, it's always about doing the harder thing. So if we're worried about being articulate and being effortless in our day-to-day communication, we really need to start looking at what were we doing day to day to work on this. How many people are we interacting with? How many
Mhm.
conversations are we having? This podcast is a good example of this, right? I might be doing well, I might not be, but I definitely did better the first time I was on a podcast where I sounded more like this. Oh well, I'm not sure how to answer this question. So it changes. The number of reps that we do is very important. And I would also recommend the random word exercise. I think the random word exercise really helps you be a lot more spontaneous as you communicate with people. And it gives you that confidence that 90% of people in your industry just don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Fantastic. So there's a lot of praise for Brenden in the comments. I highly recommend that everybody go and check out the best way to reach out to Brenden would be his YouTube channel where he's got a bunch of fans and lots of good content, like good quality content. Just because it's free and it's on YouTube is like, oh yeah, I'll give this and I'll save the rest for my paid program. No, Brenden shares his best stuff, so highly recommend you checking it out. And I'm going to do a quick recap of everything that we talked about. So we talked about how do you introduce yourself in a way that's memorable and in a way with impact. So if you have just tuned in, go and watch the replay because Brenden shared some formula which I think would help you a lot. And then we also discussed some last minute tips when you have a big presentation tomorrow or the next 24 hours, 36 hours. What are the best ways to do that? And how do you speak in such a way that you can avoid misunderstandings? So, with that said, I want to say a big thank you to Brenden for being with us today. Thank you so much and wish you lots of success. I know you're a busy guy, you've got a lot of projects going on. So, really, really appreciate your time.
Of course. Pleasure to be on.
Awesome. Fantastic. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As you can tell, I'm trying to do a little bit better in terms of my time because these things tend to go on for a really long time. And I'm thinking particularly of anyone who's watching, who's going to be watching the replay later. It's a little bit easier to understand and digest this information. So I have a little bit of I have a question here. So if you joined us live or you're watching us on the replay, put hashtag replay. What is your biggest takeaway and how are you going to implement it? Put it in the comments right now. There's something powerful about writing something down. It helps you to articulate it and make it clear. So with that said, thanks for being with us. Thanks for choosing to be here on Supercharged Fridays. You have a choice. You could be doing something else, but always appreciate having a live audience. It makes it more fun. And join me next week where I have a fabulous person talking about all things resumes, because I've done so many live streams on resumes, but it's just one of those things that I think everyone needs to know, whether you're a job seeker or you're not a job seeker. It's just and resume tips and trends in 2021 have been changing a lot. So Erica is going to be joining us from the East Coast in the United States. So bring all your questions on resumes next week. With that said, take care of yourselves. Have a lovely weekend ahead. Bye for now.